Welcome to the World Economic Federation channel. This week we will be talking about the Federation's position on diversity, equity, and inclusion, what is more commonly referred to as DEI. The short answer is that the Federation is built on the principles of DEI, from our objectives in creating a more just and equitable future than we have today. After all, if we are willing to go to the lengths of attempting to build a UBI, a privately held single-payer healthcare system, a properly funded education system, retirement benefits, and other social safety net programs, of course we would start with the very basic standard of having DEI accommodations, to add to the multitude of voices we hope will guide the Federation into the future. Your voices. Today we live in a society that says that unless you have value to someone with deep pockets, you and your community don't have an intrinsic value, and you should get left behind. In the 90s, this looked like the Clinton administration leaving the rural communities behind in service to Wall Street, while underfunding programs for urban communities, often with an emphasis on race. This racialized framing of performative virtue on the part of the Clinton administration was to distract from the fact that they were still continuing a legacy of injustice in minority communities under the banner of reform, while at the same time relegating rural communities to the predations of Wall Street and big agriculture. They divided the rural and urban communities by putting into place specialized, underfunded programs for urban poverty that were not even a Band-Aid, while expanding the poverty of rural communities. At the same time, they were deregulating Wall Street, unleashing vast amounts of wealth through banking deregulation that favored the interests of the wealthy elite. Subprime borrowers inflated property values with unpayable debts that would later be foreclosed upon, to the benefit of the same predator class that pushed easier credit to foreclose upon rather than living wages to live upon, an individualized approach to neocolonialism on Americans. With the Bush administration, the debt bubble grew larger as further deregulation externalized corporate liabilities and internalized gains, further propped up by the massive spending in no-bid contracts to the donor class in response to their failure to prevent the 9/11 attacks. Environmental deregulation and further privatization offered by these far-right neoliberals, by then called neoconservatives, since the Clinton administration had also been neoliberal, by appropriating Bush Sr.'s and Reagan's platform veiled behind the doublespeak they referred to as political correctness, to maintain the illusion of differences while distracting with the expansion of the culture wars that had been waged between the performative virtue of the Clinton Democratic Party and the performative virtue of Newt Gingrich and his contract with America. If you were to scratch through the surface into their economic policies, you would find the same neoclassical economics that Wall Street has advocated for in all of these administrations, both Democratic and Republican. It's not that there is a uniparty, but more a power cartel of two political parties that both work for the same donor class. While the Republican Party leadership distracts their base with culture wars, depending on partisanship to prevent their followers from seeing through their lies, the Democratic Party still wishes to signal pro-democratic beliefs by relying on the partisanship of "they are worse" narratives and tribalism to prevent their inaction from being put under too much scrutiny. During the elections, this contributed to the Democrats' Diet Republicans strategy as they moved closer to Wall Street, believing that they could depend on "Trump is a threat" without having to give any scrutiny to the economic policies they share with Republicans at the behest of Wall Street. Having gambled with possibly the fate of democracy and lost, Democratic leaders are no better equipped to challenge the will of the donor class, as if the threat of fascism to government, the Constitution, and the rule of law can be halted by a strongly worded memo and social media post from Chuck Schumer. The Federation is a global organization built on economic equity and inclusion, where, if someone has not yet received their UBI, that means that we have to keep working until everyone is accounted for. Our billionaires say we need them to run society, but they are the ones who stand in the way of a better future and addressing the problems that plague the working class of the world. Divide and conquer. They divide us based on our languages, our cultures, our borders, our fandoms, our politics. Political leaders have even tried to declare mercy a sin in their appropriation of the Christian faith to their political will, because their policies are reflecting the belief that the weak are prey. Show no mercy, for they will surely never show you any. The idea is that you are left with the choice between the corporate fascism of Elon Musk and Peter Thiel on one side, and the hand-wringing to avoid turning on the corporate donor class on the other, making them little more than controlled opposition. But those are not your only choices. There is a third option: the Federation. The Federation is not founded by politicians, but by different people of different beliefs who agree on compassion without condition. Politicians may feel it appropriate to debate whether or not DEI is a good idea. What they have shown is that someone will always be left behind. They just debate on whom it should be and when it's acceptable. They do not argue whether the very forces that make DEI necessary should be challenged. They argue about whether or not it should exist and how much injustice should continue. Poverty and injustice is the enemy, not the stranger. Leave it to a politician to normalize leaving people behind, to the point that people debate who should be protected from their leaders' corruption. We take DEI a step further, because we are not politicians or billionaires looking to obscure the self-serving failures of the current economy and society. While politicians debate who should benefit from being protected, to obscure the fact that there are people they don't and won't protect, the Federation has a greater goal: to keep working until no one is left behind. Today, for once, we have a choice between the supremacist beliefs of the donor class and their debate on the size of scraps you and your family get, for now anyways, before they decide to renegotiate their contract with you, and the working class values of solidarity, community, and building a better future for generations to come. Billionaires and corporate autocracy, or a future of diversity of voices, including yours, equity for you and your community, and inclusion in the benefits and opportunities created with success. DEI should be a way of being, not just a political slogan or punching bag. If you choose the way of the Federation, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to help give others a real choice based on sincerely held values and beliefs as an alternative to political posturing.